right, I'm Dave, American Dirtbagger.
John, American Dirtbagger.
Cat, American Dirtbagger.
And we're here with world-renowned Kiwi Mike for Indian motorcycles. He's given us the privilege to do a podcast with us. Thank you, sir.
Yep. You're more than welcome. So a couple questions. First of all, so where are you from? We'll start with that.
Originally New Zealand.
Originally New Zealand.
Yeah, so I left New Zealand when I was 21.
Okay, and then...
Being, like, part of American. I'm a Yankee.
I like that.
That was good.
US.
So was it New Zealand then the U.S. or did you...
I went from New Zealand, Japan,
Okay.
Hawaii, Canada, for a short amount of time.
Right.
And then come down and travel to the United States and never left.
Okay.
Wow.
When did your love for motorcycles start?
Actually, it started late. I mean, it wasn't a little kid, but I was probably around... I liked them when I was about mid-teenager, but my parents never let me have a motorcycle. Well, they said, you're just not going to have a motorcycle again. I'm
Okay.
just understood.
Sure.
Right.
But when I come to getting a job, I think I was about 16.
Right.
It's like, man, I need something to travel backwards and forwards to. Didn't have any whole bunch of money. Didn't even have any room. I mean, my dad had a big shed, but we had nowhere to put anything. He had his trucks and tractors and everything like that. So a car was out of the question. So then I just decided to
Get a motorcycle.
I built up enough balls to.
Nope.
I got a motorcycle and I just get a little Honda 100.
Right.
Yeah, you could ride it,
Was that your first bike, a Honda 100?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Right.
And it didn't take long to put the Powerol 125cc kit in it.
Yeah.
Right.
I went all over the country. And
Right.
everything.
So then from there, so you're about 16 when that?
Yeah,
you
we're
were
about
16.
16, yeah.
So when did Indians become really your passion?
Probably about 17. I got
So
into
right
vintage
away.
Bikes. I
Yeah.
saw this old Maori guy, Joe Lewis, and that's a native of New Zealand. He's like Hawaiian descent, Polynesian descent. And he would ride it once every few weeks from his place, which would be up the main road past our place, to the pub. And he would, spend quite a bit of time there. The bike sort of knew the way home. And it was an old Army Indian.
Oh, nice.
Called a Model 741. And looking back, I mean, it's really a gutless wonder.
Right.
It didn't do much fast. And but I just always admired that bike. And little did I know, I probably wasn't about 45, I realized I had an eye for design. And I just remember being drawn into that bike as a youngster and just noticing the lines of the tank followed the frame all the way down to the rear axle. And little did I know I had an eye for design. I mean, that coming when I was designing motorcycles, my tribute bikes in 1940. When I was 45. But my whole thing started probably about 17.
Wow.
Yep.
Nice.
So what brought you to like Japan and these different areas?
I was in JC's, which is like a Lions Club.
Okay.
And then most New Zealanders travel. We're known to travel all over the world. So I thought, well, look, if I sign up for this deal, it was a conference, international conference, JC conference in Japan. If I signed up for that, now I've got a hard date. So that was April '82. And that might be a little bit before April because I ended up in America in April '82. But I just knew if you got a target date, if you got something, I'll put a deposit there without
Right, makes it
Yeah.
happen.
thinking
Yeah.
about it. It's like,
Yep.
okay,
Yeah.
that's it. And then from that point on, that was my drawing to Japan, which is it was a 2-week trip around Japan and Hawaii for a few days. And it was back then it was $1,800. Well, a flight from New Zealand to Japan and back again was $1,800. So here am I going to have a 2-week tour, everything included, for $1,800.
Wow.
And I just left the group at Hawaii. Just got a ticket to go up to Canada. And I got an uncle that my brother lives up there. And so that gave me a landing point. I didn't have much I was actually going to Canada and then coming down to America, but I wasn't planning on staying. It was a 6-month deal that I was away on,
Right,
Wow.
right.
which was 2.5 years by the time I finally got back.
Oh, no way.
When I got back, it's like, what am I doing back here? It sounds silly, but I'd actually outgrown New Zealand. Like, New Zealand is, it's two islands way down the other end of the world. Just imagine, I mean, it is way down the other end of the world.
Right.
Dead end down at the other end of the world.
Right, right.
I'm talking in terms of shipping, transportation. But I just, there was something bigger out here. I'd experienced things in America. My father always had American equipment, trucks, rock crushers, front end loaders, and he always liked American equipment, even switches on his equipment,
So did you work on the equipment with your father?
Yeah.
Did he have a farm or a ranch?
Well,
or?
we had a farm, but we also had rock quarries.
Oh,
wow.
okay.
So he actually had the only portable lime crushing plant in the southern hemisphere.
Oh, no way.
This is a guy that has no formal education. He might have done 3 years at, a outback hillbilly school. I mean, it was a little school.
Right.
Yeah.
But engineering-wise, these guys, that's why I admire a lot of the older guys.
Right.
And I think we've got to have all these fancy education
Oh.
and stuff like that, do the stuff. Those guys were building bridges. There were no computer simulations that say, look, a piece of steel flexes this much and it's going to break. They just looked at stuff and they tended to overbuild stuff, but I really admire those guys that built cars.
Yep.
It would be engines or skyscrapers. There was no computerizing anything to, check stress test anything.
Right. Well, yeah. They built the modern lubrication system, and Google wasn't around.
Yeah.
They're like, if we do this and this creates this. I'm like, they're geniuses,
Yeah.
And guys, if you're mechanically inclined, you have it. Education's only going to could make it bigger, but if you got it, you got it. Like you say, in the line of that gas tank in the frame, you just had that. You can't teach that.
The shit of it is, I didn't realize I had it until I was 45 when I started building my
Really?
own bikes. It was like, damn, I do have a design.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at colors. I'm looking at, you're designing motorcycles.
Right.
Is that when 45 is when you started getting into building the bikes and doing what you do now,
I've been
or?
doing restorations prior to that, but
Yeah.
restorations is taking the existing thing and fixing all the bad things and making it just all better than factory. But when I started building my own bikes, now I've got my own creativity into the whole thing.
Right.
So I wish I had known that earlier on. I could have done more with it.
Yep.
But then
Yeah.
again, it is what it is. I don't know what
Right,
I've done,
right.
in all honesty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When did you realize I want to restore motorcycles for a living? When did that
Well,
passion
I
hit
started
you?
out as a parts business in 1988.
Okay.
And that was here.
Yep, that's
United
it.
States.
Here.
Yeah, this is actually this building.
Oh.
So
Oh,
I bought
no
that
way.
Wow.
House in 1988, and then I did a show in Iowa called Davenport, and I did that one, and it's an international show. It's a big swap meet,
Mhm.
and my business just took off. I mean,
Wow.
it just exploded from that point on. So I just focused on parts, building parts, and better parts. I rode Indians, so I knew the weak points on them. Because my trade is engine building, it's automotive machining, I got a fascination with engines. So that's why the parts I build for these old motorcycles are better than stock, because I understood metallurgy and I didn't understand American metallurgy, had a bit of experience with English stuff, which is a whole different series of
Oh wow.
Right.
names for steels. So I had to learn the American stuff, and lucky I was around. Well, people are real helpful. I got a foreign accent, and I'd ask questions. I'd ask people that were really specialists on engine valves, or rings, or connecting rods, or bearings, and stuff like that. I mean, they would share their information, and I remember these transmissions on these things are sort of weak, and I remember going, man, I remember my dad's Chevy truck. It's got a similar transmission. So what's a heavy duty what's a transmission that's in something really tough that gets a lot of stress and beat up? I thought, man, old Caterpillar bulldozer, not the new ones because they're hydraulic. So
Right.
you're dealing with the old mechanical stuff. You got shock on gears,
Yeah.
So I called up Caterpillar, and I got to talk. Went through a few departments, And I got to talk to this older guy, and he goes, "Yeah, I remember Indian motorcycles." And I explained to him the gear. He goes, "Oh, yeah, you know, an old D6 transmission, old D6 bulldozer's about the same." He pulls out the print, and he shares that information with me. Now, he knows I'm not any competition with him.
Right, right.
So people have really been an open book to me, even metallurgists. I mean, there's a lot of great information out there, and I was just hungry for it, and I had people willing to share that information with me.
Well, that's they say, who's the smartest man in the room? The guy that knows the answer, or the guy that asks the smartest man
I
in the
go
room?
to look, I become smart, and I'm not smart,
Right.
but I know leading people in those industries.
So that makes you smart because you're willing to go to those smart people that, like, you know what you know, and when you don't, you go to the person that does know that. And that's what makes people smart, is they're willing to say, "I'm not sure. Can you tell me?"
Ask.
Yeah.
I never want to be a know-it-all. I think that
Yeah.
like some people, when I'm in a conversation,
Right.
I'm the quiet guy. Okay. Some people say, "Oh, he's a
Yeah,
dumbass."
yeah.
No, I'm sucking up all the information.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
Shut up.
My gosh, when we met you, I shared the story. When we met you, we left the cemetery and we see this old Indian. And I tell everybody, I didn't know what year it was. I knew it was 40s. Was it 40s?
Yeah, 48.
48. So I didn't know that till, when I
Actually,
met
the one
him.
on the back.
Yeah.
the-
Oh, is
Back
it?
that
It's
one.
beautiful. And we passed by him. She's like, "You to go back?" I'm like, "Of course." Motorcycle on the side of the road. Let's go back.
Yeah.
So we circled back, stopped, introduced ourselves, offered him a water.
Yeah.
He already had someone coming to pick it up. And then we just started talking. And
Yeah.
it's just this guy on the side of the
Great.
road that rides highways, not freeways, when he travels around the United States.
Yeah.
Not California, the United States. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
He was on his way down to San Diego. I
All
remember
over
him
the
saying
world.
this.
World.
All over the world,
Yes.
yeah. I remember saying he's on his way down to San Diego, and I'm just taking the freeway down to highway such and such, and I'm going to take the
Yeah.
highways all the way down to San Diego and back. And I'm like, on an old Indian.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that he's been to Sturgis
Yeah.
and all over the
Every-
world on
everywhere.
old Indians, because it was just a really nice, down-to-earth guy. And then
Yeah.
when I mentioned him at work, they're like, "Oh my God, you met this Kiwi Mike?" I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't
Yep.
know you were world famous." And
Yeah.
I know you're very humble, but you are. Everybody that knows anything about Indians or even Harleys, you mentioned Kiwi Mike, like, you know
Yeah.
him. I'm like,
Yeah.
nice guy, just a down to earth chap,
I want to qualify something.
Okay.
I was
Qualify.
on the side of the freeway because my dumb ass had been in the studio and there's 2 clips that hold a cap on.
Right.
Right.
And I brain farted. I put one on, but
Yeah.
I got anyway. I did something else, and I didn't put the other one on.
Right.
So it broke the top off the rotor. And Carolyn was coming to bring me another
Yeah.
rotor, so I could get back on the road. It's very rarely I am on the side. Actually, hardly ever I'm on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
No,
It was
100%.
meant.
So-
It was
100%.
meant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's we met.
Yeah.
That's so I'm a big
Yeah.
karma person. I believe
Yeah.
you broke down you were a dumbass for a reason. We appreciate you being a dumbass. And we were lucky that we were there.
We're
at
the
same time.
benefactors.
Yeah.
We're the benefactors.
Yeah.
So Carolyn seems to be your wife. Carolyn seems to be as much part of your business as
Yeah.
you are. So
Yeah.
now, were you guys already married when you got into Indians, or did?
Oh no, I was already into Indian,
Okay,
but we started the business together.
gotcha.
So we bought this place in 1988, and we built the shop that we're in 1990.
Right. So she knew what she was getting into when she met you,
Probably
like
not.
motorcycle. Well, I'm saying the motorcycle thing, right?
She
Like,
had the dreams of being on the white picket fence.
Well, there's
Living in LA.
because she
Oh,
ride, yeah, but she rides with you, right? When you go on those, yep,
Nice.
on these old Indians. That's incredible.
She rides on them.
Yeah.
She doesn't. She's not a rider,
Right.
doesn't pilot it.
Right.
But she
It's on the
rides
back.
with me and she
Yeah.
loves it.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot of shitty weather. I mean, miserable,
Yeah.
Wow.
miserable weather, and she never, ever complains. I mean,
Yeah,
Nice.
she's a
that's
best
cool.
Yeah.
keeper, Period.
Yeah.
So then I got a question on that one. What's your favorite ride, and what's your most weather miserable remembered ride?
Carolyn's my favorite ride. Now, I don't have a particular favorite. I mean, I like all the different eras of Indian.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if my go-to bike seems to be my 1945, my Coast Guard bike.
Right.
It's a beautiful bike, by
Which
the way.
is right
my
here
God, it's
behind us,
Yeah,
Yeah.
If I could jump on.
What about-
one, and they're,
Yeah.
they're all cool in their own way.
Yeah.
I mean, some bikes feel better than others, you know, if you
Yeah.
restore it or you ride them. I mean, I've
Oh,
had
yeah.
some, like that 1948 back there,
Right.
I've done a lot of miles on. The 53, the black one, I've done a lot of miles on. There's some of the bikes I've had, and it's like, man, they just don't feel right.
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 Okay.
And you know, so usually get rid of it, you know.
Yeah.
I like bikes that, right, I like to sample, and that's what's good that, you know, has helped me a lot of my business is the fact that I've ridden all the stuff from, I'm not really particularly into the team stuff. That's like still a glorified, it's an oversized bicycle.
Yeah.
It's become more of a motorcycle, but it's still, you sort of steer them, you know, it's not a motorcycle. 20s stuff, I like the stuff in the 30s, you know, the
Okay.
early-ish 30s, you get into something you can ride. Still the early 30s is a 45, 50 mile an hour bike. But that's what the roads were back then.
Right.
Right.
You get into the mid-30s, now you're doing 60, 65 and above. The Chief
Yeah.
is a big bike, it's the Cadillac. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
nice ride, long wheelbase, it's heavy duty, it's built strong. The Scouts, ultimately they race because they're 45 cubic inch.
Right.
Light, nimble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's nothing like a Chief.
So do you
Right.
prefer the 4-cylinder versus the V-twin, or?
That's a sort of a loaded question. Now, the 4-cylinder guys aren't going to like this, but a Chief will piss all over a 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
I mean, day in, day out. There's some good builders of 4-cylinders, but you are not going to build it as durable as a Chief. There's no way. But, you know, the 4-cylinders are a fragile motorcycle. It's a prestigious motorcycle.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Indian put a lot of money into the 4-cylinder. This is under E. Paul DuPont, so it's 1929 to 1945 era. And they put a lot of money into the 4-cylinder, but it's a prestigious thing selling it to municipalities, to police departments.
Gotcha.
But they should have actually taken a lot of that money, and rumor had it that they lost money on every 4-cylinder they sold. But what they should have been doing is putting their money into the Chief, because Harley come out with a knucklehead, was already overhead valve, even though an old Indian would still, I ride with the guys on knucklehead, an old Chief will still, in many cases, outrun it, at least keep up or outrun it. The transmission on these things is 3-speed, it got antiquated, they just never put any money into it. The money was going back into 4-cylinders,
Gotcha.
maybe some other things too, but that was basically, they starved the Chief of development.
What's your favorite longest ride you went on in one stretch? Not one day, but you left here and this time later you hit here. And it doesn't have to be in the United States. It could be anywhere in the world that you...
One was 700,
Wow.
700, it's just over 700, God, I can't remember now,
In a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
in a day, and the other one was 735 miles.
Right.
I left Ouray, Colorado, I was going to do it 2 days, so it's going to come down, I take back roads.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
it's
I
not
find
like I'm doing it
amazing.
Yeah.
700 miles on freeway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of that was, but most of that was on secondary roads. So I left
Wow.
Ouray, Colorado, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was going to stay in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I got into Flagstaff, Arizona about mid-afternoon, I don't know what time was it, mid-afternoon. At Flagstaff, Harley, there's a bar and a grill. And I always stop in there. It's a Route 60, I can't remember, it's Route 66. Anyway, he always had good, Felix was the owner, and he had good food. So you bought your steak or your chicken or your hamburger or whatever, and then you cooked it on the barbecue, I mean a big indoor barbecue, yourself.
Right.
And it was, it's fun, you know.
Right.
You're meeting other people, and it's just really good food.
Nice.
So I got in there, and I was done, and I go, man, I'm feeling pretty good. I could
Keep
go
going.
get to California. From that point on,
Yeah.
most
Wow.
of it was freeway.
Okay.
Oh,
So it was at midnight. I was at the top of the Cajon Pass. There was a pilot truck stop there. I pulled in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even switch my bike off. Pull
Whoa.
in there, get the pump it up, gone.
wow.
Getting on the freeway, and next thing I've got the red and blue lights on.
Oh, shit.
What bike were you on?
Yeah.
On this-
Yeah,
doing
which
this?
one?
Actually, it was on my Coast Guard bike.
Oh, really?
And what's the top speed that you cruise at on that?
65, but I
60.
like 60. You know, it's a good speed. I don't
And
like
you're
the
working-
windshield.
the advance and
Yeah.
the ignition timing on your right side, right on the right.
Yeah, throttle's on your left.
Throttle's on the left, ignition time on.
timing's on the
A
right.
lot to do on that bike.
And you did this
Yeah.
all those miles at about
Right,
60
right.
miles an hour.
Wow.
Okay,
So-
so, red
so red
blue.
blue.
You don't have a windshield. Like guys go, yeah, I did 900 miles. Well, look,
Wow.
You're not a fancy bagger. You're on the freeway.
Yeah.
And you got a windshield.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you try and.
we're fancy
feeling,
baggers.
we're not feeling so tough right now.
No. We're just
Right.
amazed that
Yeah.
you're doing
I've just
this.
been brought up on bikes without windshield.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wear a full face helmet.
Yeah.
Like my shield.
Yeah.
But I like the elements. So I got the highway patrol lights on. I said, "You gotta be shit." And I forgot my registration
Oh, no.
and insurance. And I go, man, I'm an hour from home, and this guy's gonna probably take my bike and
Oh,
I have
shit.
to find a way home. So he pulls me over. He goes, "Hey, I pulled you over because your tail light's out." I was like, "Oh shit!" I said, "No, that's the joys of riding old shit, you know." So I got down there and I jumped. I said, "You got a flashlight?" Yeah. I said, "Shine it down here." So I jumped my brake light switch. Now it's on.
The brake light,
Nice.
right.
Look, he said, "There's." I can't remember. He said like something like 6 accidents a day
Yeah.
come down here, and he said, "I just want you to be safe." I said, "Oh, thank you very much."
Wow.
But I was trying to not have him ask me those 101 questions. You know? So I thought I was getting out of there scot-free. And he says, "So where you going?" I said, "Riverside." I said, where do you come from?" And I go, "Ouray, Colorado." He goes, "When did you leave Ouray, Colorado?" And I go, 6 o'clock this morning, sir. He said, "You telling me you left Colorado this morning on that thing?" I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Get out of here."
Nice.
He said, "Before you go, can I get a photo of you with your bike?"
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
nice.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Turns into a fan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I found them helpful, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna get a speeding ticket.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, that's.
No, I mean, the police officer turned into a
Yeah.
fan of yours,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
Wow.
that's
I
respectable.
mean,
That's
last,
a-
last
awesome.
Sunday,
That was-
John and I
that was
did.
735 miles.
Yeah.
Today.
Last Sunday, John and I
Wow.
did like 560 miles on our baggers with windshields
Yeah,
on the freeway, and we were exhausted. So that's why I'm thinking
Wow.
60 miles an
Did
hour.
you ever get tired?
no windshield? 700 something miles. It's
Wow.
upper body. I don't think people
Yeah.
understand the upper body workout that you put
It's
into
actually
it.
your neck.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it's just you're doing it all the time, so
Yeah.
you sort of built up those muscles.
Right,
I don't
right.
think of it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I never get fatigued. These bikes have a nice solo saddle that contours your butt, and the seat itself has it's got its own suspension.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's got a pogo seat
Yeah.
spring
Right.
wheel
Wow.
in there, so it's going up and down. So it's independent of the bike. The bike can be hitting bumps.
Mm-hmm.
So your bikes, you feel you're
We
working
do.
through the suspension.
Yes.
Right.
Your seat is on the frame.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these old bikes are independent of the frame, and your seat your ass contours the seat,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so you don't get a sore ass. Never.
Wow.
Nice.
So, go ahead.
So when you take the back road, did you ever like experience anything like scary or anything? Or any trouble? Did you run into anything?
No.
No?
No. I don't
Yeah, you
really-
just went for it, huh?
that's where you discover America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
only thing is that if something should happen out there,
Right.
you are screwed. But
Yeah.
I got confidence in my equipment,
Yeah.
Yep.
and that's why I take the least traveled roads. It's more adventurous for me. I'm pushing myself. I want people to see, hey, you know what, the parts I build,
Right.
you can ride these old bikes.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I tell you, the stuff I discover on the loneliest roads in America, and the people that I'm
Yeah.
riding to, it's amazing.
That's we
Nice.
do. We
Yeah.
do like riding highways instead of freeways whenever you get a chance to. It just seems nicer, windier
Yeah.
roads,
Yeah.
the
But-
beauty.
By accident, we've gotten onto the lonely roads and discovered actually some really cool places
Yeah.
because of it.
If I have to
Yeah.
take the freeway,
Yeah.
like the road, I got to take it for a while. I mean, I am really looking at maps.
Right.
I don't use GPS until I'm lost. And that's usually, or I'm trying to find a hotel at night. You know,
Right,
you get into
right.
towns
Right.
where you don't know where it is.
Yeah.
I usually use it at that point, but during the day, I never use GPS.
Wow.
I'm still old paper mats.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
I've got
crazy.
Rand McNally Atlas always with me.
Right on.
Even my
Uh-huh.
vehicles, I've got Rand McNally Atlas. Every single
Wow.
one I travel
Yep.
with has got a Rand McNally Atlas on it.
That's crazy. That's
And
old
I'm
school.
always looking for the little roads. Okay, even if it
Yeah.
parallels the freeway, can I go down that?
So in your career as building bikes and parts and getting into this, who have you met? Like,
How about give a better one? Who's your favorite
Favorite.
person you met? Favorite famous person. Is that what you're shooting for?
yeah, or just the people that, because of what you do, you were able to connect with some pretty cool
I've
people.
met with a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of them are well known. The one that I have, I hate to say it, he's the most engaging, interesting, genuine, spend time with. He's interested in what you do. Is Jay Leno.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Hands down. I mean, he's just,
And you work on his bikes,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I've done several for him. Some of his are, the original paint, so we're not restoring them.
Right.
I'm going through them mechanically.
Wow.
Because when you get into original
Yeah.
paint, you can't.
Yeah.
It's got a story to tell, so you're
Yeah.
fixing all the
Yeah.
Pelican stuff right now, working with him on his guy's actually restoring a 1940 four-cylinder with a sidecar.
Nice.
And I'm working with them.
Right.
So I'm up there several times a month. And,
Nice.
but
And
he's just a genuine guy. I don't know. I work a lot with Mike Wolf as well.
Yeah.
He's a good
Yeah,
friend.
yeah.
Seems like a
On-
really
on-
good guy.
friend,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
On
Genuine.
pickers.
Mike is passionate. I mean, I've known Mike. He's one of my early customers. So I've probably known him since 92 or 3.
So you knew him before American Pickers.
Oh, way before.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah, he'd
Yeah.
call up and I'd sell him parts and
Huh.
he'd ask how to do something and I'd be working through all the tech stuff with him. And we're still keep in contact to this day. I mean, he was out looking at some stuff on Mother's Day last year, the year before, and we talked for several hours on Mother's Day. It's like, who else would be talking? I mean, how weird, how
Right.
strange you have to be talking motorcycles on Mother's Day. And Mike gets my wife
That-
out.
yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's no big deal.
Well, that's so. I'm gonna. From my standpoint, that's where I put you as when we met you.
Mm-hmm.
You were just this genuine guy on a motorcycle who was waiting for a part, and you admitted right off the bat, look, I screwed up. Flip the little lever on the distributor cap. And being automotive guys, we know what distributor caps are.
Yeah.
It's like hee. And then I literally afterwards found out how famous you were, but you never come. Well, there's a lot of people that think you're super famous, and from looking at the books and looking at how many times you've been on
Yeah.
TV and your motorcycles and your background and you're in the Indian.
Just passionate about it,
Yeah.
and that's where some people get some people, competitors even look at me and like I welcome everybody.
Yeah.
There's more than enough business out there for everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the thing that separates me from everybody else, and they don't, even some collectors and bike owners, Indian owners, is the fact that I'm passionate about this stuff. This is not my business. This is a hobby that turned into a business that's still my hobby 36 years later.
So you're living.
Yeah.
You got a passion and you're making money out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Living your dream.
Man, yeah.
Wow.
So it's my passion. I love it. I'm glad I'm able to afford the bike. But I'm passionate about it, And that's what others don't have or wish they could have been in the business and done something. It's a weird business. I mean, this is a cottage industry. It's not like selling Harley Davidson. You'll make a living. You're going to get independently wealthy. No, you're going to have a hell of a lot of fun. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
There's a lot of Harley guys that knew your name. That's how I found out you were famous because I'm like I met some guy named Kiwi Bike. And like I mean, it's a motorcycle thing. Obviously, you wouldn't go to a car collector and ask him who Kiwi Mike was, wouldn't know. But you go to a motorcycle guy, and your name's well out there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, I actually made one T-shirt up one day. I mean, I ended one. It was like Kiwi who?
Kiwi. That's pretty cool.
That's a good one.
that's amazing.
So you were the technical advisor on the movie The World's Fastest Indian.
Yes.
How did that come about? Did somebody know your name? Was this through a connection?
Did you know
Or
the
do
guy?
or was it your name's out there where they say we need Kiwi Mike
It
on
was
this
sort of-
set?
Weird in its own way. Like, I know who Burt Munro is. He's a fellow New Zealander. He died in '76, I believe. So he died just before I bought my first Indian.
Hmm.
And so I never got to meet him. But then again, I mean, I'm at the top of the North Island. He's at the bottom of the South Island.
Oh,
Right.
Like, to get towards the two islands is a big island ferry, and it wasn't that easy back then, It was like a big deal.
Right.
So that's one of my regrets is I never got to meet Burt Munro. But like, he's a legend down under, what he did. Then I heard this movie was going on, and it's like, man, how do I get involved in this? It's like, I'm with Indians, I'm a Kiwi. How do I contact? Well, in the meantime, I mean, the phone goes. We're not talking the same day, but
right.
and the phone goes, and it's Roger Donaldson, the director of this. He goes, Mike, he said, we want you involved in this. I go, no shit, man, I'd love to be involved in this.
So you were already thinking about it,
Yeah.
but they reached out to you.
Yeah, they reached out
Wow.
to me. So I was supplying parts for the motorcycles. The bikes were built in New Zealand. At one point, they asked me to do it, but it's a lot easier for them to do it down there.
Right.
You've got a lot of cottage industry guys that
Yeah.
I wasn't really set up to do something completely custom at that time, what they were doing. So, I was supplying parts to the guys down there, and they were very, very talented. And they had one of the what do you call it, bikes down there, so they were able to
Wow.
duplicate it
Wow.
easier. And just through that, I picked the bikes up at LAX. They flew two of them over. Yeah, there's actually one prototype, and then they had several that were Ducati powered ones. That's what you see running in the movie, the Ducati 750 powered one. So picked the bikes up at LAX, transported them up to Wendover at Bonneville, and then my friend Josh was helping me out. I had to come back to shop, and then Josh actually fitted Hopkins up to the string line. He got him in the pose, and they had to be cut out and fitted him to it. And his ass is he's bent over, his ass is up in the air. And he's like, put your ass down, put your ass down. He's an Irish. My buddy's an Irishman. He's wacko. I mean, coolest dude.
Yeah.
Nice.
We've done a lot of miles together. Him and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm probably the only guy that's had my hand on Tony's ass.
That's funny.
He's calling him Anthony.
Right.
Yeah.
Anthony said, well, hey, my friends call me Tony.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Always Tony.
Right.
Okay.
But there's Josh whacking his ass. Get your ass, get your ass.
That's funny.
That's
That's
That's good.
amazing. We literally, Kat and I literally went to Bonneville
Yes.
and drove on the salt flat because of that movie.
That's
She
my
watched that
favorite
movie. She's like, I need, and then we stopped and she took a little jar and she scooped up some salt,
That's cool.
brought it
Yeah,
home.
I love it.
It was a few years back when they didn't do the trials because there was a lot of rain,
Yes.
and so they canceled the trials that year. And the lady told us at the gas station, she said, if you get stuck, it's like $1,000 to get
Yeah.
towed out.
Yeah.
So we just were careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we did
That's
anyways.
not
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it was something that you can't.
Yeah.
You'll never not.
That movie would be directly responsible for the reinvigoration, the regeneration, getting people it had a following, all the car and motorcycle racing.
Sure.
But that one movie would have affected so many people. Just a private guy with no money, no
Yep.
extra money,
Yep.
a can-do attitude, and go out there and do it.
Right.
And that's where that whole Bonneville got
Yeah.
exploded again.
Yeah.
You know?
But-
That guy was. It was interesting. So going back, okay, I didn't meet Burt Munro, but here I am on the set. You're in the middle of Bonneville Salt Flats. There's nothing out there for miles around. You're immersed. 1962 or 3, I think. That era, the cars, the props, the dress,
Yeah.
the actors. So I'm actually filling in the actors of their role. Rolling free, so on. So I was educating them about the part that they were playing.
Wow.
Got you.
But the whole scene was, you were immersed in 1963.
Right.
So, okay, I missed out on the opportunity to meet Burt Munro, but here am I with Burt Munro. I'm living it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
Wow.
it was
Yeah.
sort of a,
And Anthony Hopkins is a phenomenal actor.
Right.
So I would have
Yeah.
swore that was Burt Munro. You know, I mean, just
that,
yeah.
that accident scene where he crashed was about 70 miles an hour.
Wow.
Those guys are, I mean, those guys that make the bike look old, make the bike look greasy. There's a guy by the name of Paul, and he sprayed all that stuff. You swear if you touch the bike, you're going to get grease on you, but it was, you could touch it,
Just
your hands
paint.
are going to be dry.
Right.
I mean, clean.
That's crazy.
Now, so, you know, and the airbrushing, you know, when it's on the back of the car and going through the rain, it's got the road
Yeah.
grime on it.
Right.
He airbrushes
Wow.
that stuff on.
Oh, no way.
I
That's
mean,
phenomenal.
These guys are so talented. And girls, that's, you know, the whole
Crew. Yeah.
crew.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
And the funny part about it is they actually got to be known as, up there in Wendover, as a Kiwi Indian movie. Because my truck had a big Freightliner truck and it did the transportation. So it's got
Kiwi.
Kiwi Indian blazed on the side.
Wow.
And on the front page of the Wendover newspaper, which is not a big town, okay?
Doesn't matter. Just
So on the front page is blazed, Kiwi Indian movie comes to Wendover.
Wow.
Right, right. So Kiwi's stealing the show.
And I gave some of the crew, actually most of the crew, Kiwi Indian, these bright red Kiwi Indian shirts.
Yeah.
So I got to know
Yeah.
I was already being known as a Kiwi Indian movie, you know.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
blazed on the front page of the Wendover
Wow.
newspaper, this Kiwi Indian, and Roger Donaldson, he goes, check this out, Mike, you know. And he said, I'm paying for it and it's your movie. Good and happy
Sure.
couple,
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Wow.
They
What
were
a-
absolutely great. Everybody wanted to be on it. There were some other movies going on at the same
Yeah.
time. So all these folks that were on it wanted to be on it. This was a maybe movie. It hadn't broken. Which I think funding was an issue. Well, like I believe. So it was rumored to happen, but not knowing where. And these people had given up these other sure movies that were going on a maybe that this one was gonna happen.
So they wanted to be a part of
Wow.
it.
Yeah, so everybody wanted to be on it.
Well, it's a pretty famous movie that I'm
Oh,
aware
yeah.
of.
Yeah.
My goodness, yeah. We watched it after when we toured here. We went home. We watched it that
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
We sat there, drank whiskey, smoked cigars, and rewatched it
When
again.
they did the speed run down there, you see some vehicles in the back, and you see vehicles in the background. There are actually supposed to be a whole bunch of people there as well. Well, the day, about time they were going to do the shoot, a storm, actually the night before, the storm had gone through and destroyed the whole set. So those people had to go. They'd come out in buses. Like Bonneville's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right.
70 miles from Utah.
Yeah.
From Salt Lake City.
Yep.
So they couldn't afford to bring them back out, so they went away, rebuilt
Oh,
the
wow.
set. So that's why it's sort of sparse.
That makes sense. That
Wow.
makes sense. Yeah.
Very
That's
cool.
crazy.
Wow.
That's some of the things that happen. You know.
Right.
Right.
But you know, the movie's not actually shot in sequence as well. Like that crash scene was at 70 miles an hour, laid it down. The first stuntman, Eric, broke his collarbone because the bike come down and it was like bang and busted his shoulder.
Ah.
But that's what those guys live for.
Yeah.
The stunt guys, they're certified nuts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not normal,
No.
I don't know.
but they live for that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then,
That's crazy.
Stuntman Mike,
Yeah.
and like when you get to see that bike getting loose,
Yeah.
Wow.
and every time he did that, I mean, we all just took a guy. But it was just natural for him.
Right.
You know, they
Yeah.
got it under control. But to think that You're going to do that slide at 70 miles an hour and land within 10 feet of the camera. Those guys know
Wow.
exactly.
Wow.
And then, you know, the stunt guy gets out, and then Hopkins is lying there with his, you know,
Burnt leg.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so real. I mean, Hopkins makes it so real.
Yeah. That's I
Wow.
mean,
Talent in itself.
that's just a giant actor. That's why I'm
Yeah.
surprised that it was a maybe movie with such an
Yeah.
actor of that
The
magnitude.
other thing
So
was, since it's not shot in sequence, now you got to keep your actors with the same skin complexion. You're out there on vulnerable salt flats. It's sun's coming down. Not only is it coming down, it's radiating off the white, so it gets you under